Hello, hello, Pure Potential members. I'm not seeing anybody in the chat yet. Are we alive tonight? Are you guys out there? I know the season's over, but we still got plenty of work to do. So we're back. Apologies, there was no stream last week. Just it's been a crazy holiday season. A lot of stuff going on, but glad to be back doing another stream today, and excited to see what we've got to work with here with the questions, what you guys want to talk about. Obviously, feel free to steer the conversation in any particular direction. This is a very open-ended time of the year. I don't think, Austin, what's up, dude? And Freelster, welcome in. Max is here. You'll have to let me know what you mean by this big week in Dynasty. I don't really know, like, if it is a big week. It's certainly, you know, first week after championships, the dust settles, everything kind of, it's big in the sense that everything sort of shifts, because any player that was holding value, that last bit of value for that week 17 production, that's gone, right? We're 8 rounds deep in my startup that I'm doing right now. Derrick Henry still on the board, right? So even though he scored 45 points in week 17, he's still a 32-year-old running back, right? So that is, it's big in the sense that we're moving on. But I don't think it's necessarily big in the sense that this is when you need to attack everything in your leagues. I think in a lot of leagues, people are kind of ready to check out for a bit, take a break. It's going to be really league dependent. But a lot of people, you know, are maybe hesitant or just too like burnt out to even think about trading at this point. If you are in a league that's active enough that people want to be trading and not just like starting new leagues or whatever, then that's great. But yeah, it is big. Renewing leagues, doing payouts. Make sure you're doing that stuff. If you're a commissioner, it's a lot of work and it's kind of annoying to do, but try to get it done. I haven't seen a ton of trades get done in my leagues since championship week wrapped up, but again, if you are, that's pretty cool. 1 second. Arthur's just running up and down the hallway. I don't know what he's yelling about, though. I'm going to be so honest. I was a couple minutes late starting because I was making a milkshake. Sometimes you just need a milkshake. All right. First thing that was mentioned in the member stream channel was running backs to target. And that was from Saint. He says he has Kamara, JCM, and Tootin, plus the 7th pick. He says he needs a running back. Yeah, so Saint, I'm going to do my best to take a look at the board here and see what kind of running backs we might want to acquire. But I just want to say right off the top, you do not need a running back bad. Just want to be super clear. It is January 2nd. Haven't checked the calendar, but I'm thinking somewhere around September, let's see, September 13th, maybe September 6th is the next time that you are going to need a running back. So you have 9 months to figure that out. You do not need to fix that problem in January. But that being said, you can always look for an angle. You can always look for a trade that makes sense. I just feel like you're going to get upcharged on certain guys that were productive to end the season. When, you know, if you let some distance form, you let the rookie hype build, you're probably getting better prices on some of these players. I do like, this is very small sample, very anecdotal. I do feel like RJ Harvey is maybe being undervalued a little bit relative to what he did down the stretch. He was like the RB6 from the time that J.K. Dobbins got hurt. I know he's 24, which is old for a rookie, but it's not old for a running back. Second round draft capital. It's a fantasy friendly role, you know, decent offense, a lot of production funneled to running backs at the goal line. In the passing game, he gets manufactured targets. On Fantasy Calc, he is currently the 63rd player, RB17. You know, the Pure Potential Dynasty rankings, I have him at RB10. So you can argue that's too aggressive if you want to, but you can certainly split the difference there, and he's still discounted, I think, relative to where he should be. So I'm kind of interested in dabbling in some RJ Harvey, especially if you can get him for a late first. I don't know if anyone's doing that, but I'm just putting that out there. Depending on your risk tolerance, could try to dabble in some Bucky Irving shares. Judkins, Scattaboo, if you can get any kind of nice injury discount there. I'm not necessarily opposed to adding those guys because they should be good to go for next season. That's not really in doubt like it would be with a multi-ligament tear. Whether they're 100% healthy, I don't know, but they're not. I don't think they're in danger of necessarily missing time. But, outside of those top-end guys, outside of those guys and then the top-end guys that we really know and trust, I'm not sure there's a ton of running backs I would want to go out of my way to acquire right now. Like, the price that you're going to have to pay for a Travis Etienne, a Kyron Williams, Chase Brown, Javonte Williams, I think is higher than it should be relative to the risk that those types of players tend to face in the offseason, which is really like any change in circumstance is often a bad thing. Travis Etienne on a different team is probably not as good. Javonte Williams on a different team, definitely not as good. Kyron Williams, if Stafford retires, is kind of toast. Chase Brown, if the Bengals draft another running back, like there is risk with these players. It's not that I wouldn't acquire them. It's just I think you're usually going to be asked to pay as if there is no risk. You're going to be asked to pay for last year's points, and I don't really want to do that. So I don't know. I would dabble in like the cheaper range if you want to try to buy in on a Tyler Algier, kind of see where the chips fall. Blake Corum. You're basically looking for guys where they are being priced closer to their floor, their median outcome, as opposed to priced towards their ceiling outcome, which I know is very case by case. There's not a great way to like quantify that, but that's what I'd be thinking of. Sorry for having to pause to drink my milkshake. It's almost gone. The next question was from Scoots. Shout out Scoots. He says, fantasy aside, who do you like this year? So I assume he means the NFL playoff picture. It's a weird year for the NFL playoffs. It feels like it's never been more wide open. Like there isn't a single team that I really think should be a Super Bowl winning team other than maybe the Rams. And even they've kind of faltered in recent weeks. So I still think the Rams are the best team as far as teams that I like, or like teams I think can pull it off. I could see the Broncos doing it just because they're going to have the bye. Everything's going to have to go through Denver. With a defense that good, you just need to kind of get a little bit lucky in the turnover battle, and it's not that hard to string a couple games together. So I think the Broncos can do it. I think the Patriots can do it. I think the Bills could do it just because Josh Allen is that guy. On paper, I don't know how the Bills do it, and I think ultimately they'll probably let us down again. On the NFC side, I think the Rams are clearly... I think the Rams are the best team. Well, no. I think the Rams and the Eagles have pretty comparable rosters, but Hurts needs to play a lot better than he has played in the playoffs. I just trust Stafford a little bit better, a little bit more, I guess, in going into the playoffs. But the Eagles, if the Eagles play the Rams, it'll be in Philadelphia. So that's kind of nice. I don't really believe in the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks, if they have the bye and the home field advantage, they have a chance. Similar case to the Broncos. If they end up as a wild card and they have to go on the road and they have to win 3 games, I don't think it's going to happen. And then the 49ers are just kind of, I don't know. The 49ers are a really fun team, fun offense. The defense is insanely bad. So I guess they'll really be putting to the test the idea that defense wins championships if they can actually go far. I don't know. I think the Eagles match up pretty well against the Niners, just in the sense that we have a really strong defense. We have really good linebackers. That bodes well when your best pass catchers are Kittle and McCaffrey. And I think our offense has struggled, but the 49ers defense is so bad that I don't think the 49ers are stopping the Eagles offense, to be honest. So I think we would match up well with them. I wouldn't mind playing them round 1 in Philadelphia. And then I think, we can win that. We go to Chicago, we can win that. So I think as long as we don't end up with the Rams in the first round, I think the Eagles have a pretty clean path to the NFC Championship. And then, what happens there, we'll see. Jaguars are interesting. I mean, here are the teams I think have absolutely legitimately no shot. Don't even think about it. Would be the Chargers. Just that offense is not going to win multiple postseason games with that offensive line. So I think the Chargers are cooked. I think the Panthers or Buccaneers are totally cooked. Worst team in the playoffs, whichever one it is. I think the Packers are cooked. And I don't believe in the Bears at all. I really don't believe in the Bears in the playoffs, to be honest with you. So, yeah, those are the teams I don't really think have a shot. Anyone else? Texans have a shot. The Texans have the best defense in the league. They have a star wide receiver. They have a quarterback that's capable of stringing together a few good games. I mean, the Texans are pretty similar to the Broncos overall. It's just that they're not going to have the home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Well, I mean, they could. No, they're a wild card team. So they'll be the 5. They'll probably end up playing the Ravens in Baltimore. Baltimore is another team that I just really, even if they win this week and they get in, it's really hard to believe in them after what they've put on tape recently. All right, let's continue. Next question was from Austin. Buys and sells. Okay. How to know if it's best taking a slight value win by selling a pick now or holding it for potential value gain. I'm uneasy about selling the 105 for Burden. I want to hear your thoughts. Well, I don't have a magic formula for knowing when it's the best time to sell a pick, especially because I think every league has its own little market when it comes to how rookie picks are valued, how highly they are coveted. And then there's even variation within that depending on the strength of the class and how it's perceived. It's like a very human driven, psychologically driven concept that is definitely going to vary from league to league. Basically, if you're selling a pick right now, you want to feel like you're getting probably the best return that you're going to get for that pick anytime between now and when the rookie draft happens. So when it comes to selling the 105 pick for Luther Burden, I have Burden right now a tier ahead of the 105. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. And it's important to realize that where I have the 105 ranked, I'm kind of already accounting for some inflation. I'm accounting for there being a 5th prospect that actually warrants some excitement. Because right now it's like Jeremiah Love, then you have the 3 wide receivers, Tate, Lemon, Tyson, and nobody really knows who that 5th consensus guy is going to be. It could probably be Fernando Mendoza if he goes 101. He'll be like the Cam Ward of this class. But it could be Dante Moore if he declares. He might have a little bit more fantasy-friendly skill set, or I'd say he definitely does. So it could be a really good player there at 5. It could be kind of a take your medicine pick at 5. It could be someone we don't even have on our radar right now. It could be like a riser at wide receiver, somebody like Denzel Boston gets a lot of hype and he ends up going like 10th overall. Like, we just don't know. So you want to account for some inflation there. But again, I'm already accounting for that a bit where I have the pick. And so, yeah, I'd be comfortable trading that pick for another asset in Luther Burden that's also likely to gain value as the offseason goes along rather than lose value. If you were trading for a player with more of a maxed out ceiling, like a Christian McCaffrey or something, I'd say this is not the time to trade for a Christian McCaffrey because he is kind of at his peak value where he's going to hit, I think he's going to hit kind of a dip in value as we get into the offseason, when we're further removed from the point scoring and people are more excited about rookies, it's like, I have this 30-year-old running back. He had 400 touches last year. So right now, a lot of people might laugh and say, why would you ever want to take the 105 over McCaffrey? But I think that's the type of thing that would flip. Whereas Burden I see as kind of like a similar type of asset to a rookie pick in the sense that a lot of the value is kind of baking in future performance. It's not built on what he's done previously. He's obviously still very young with a lot of value upside. So I think that's a good trade. I'm not really shopping. I mean, I'm not really doing anything with my leagues right now. I need a week or two to kind of decompress anyway, but I'm not really shopping my rookie picks right this second. I just think it's unnecessary. I just think it's too early. If someone comes to you with an offer or whatever, certainly you should listen. But I think it's kind of just more effort than it's worth trying to sell rookie picks for their true and fair eventual value. I think the best move is just get in startups right now and just draft a bunch of rookie picks. Like I'm in a startup right now. I'm not going to talk about it a ton because I'll probably go over more of a full recap next week. But this startup, I took the rookie 101 at the 211. So the 23rd overall asset. And then I took the 102 at the 311. So 35th overall asset in the draft. I thought both of those were really strong values. And then I ended up taking the 105 with the 602, which is the 62nd pick. Yeah, 62nd pick. So 105 at the 62nd pick. I have 105 ranked as like the 43rd, 44th best asset on the rankings. So I thought that was a considerable value. We're deep into the 8th round at this point, and I think the next pick is 110. So these picks have been really discounted, at least in this particular startup. But I think that's going to happen a lot because there's been so much talk about this being a weak class. Yeah. That startup is not real. It is real though. It's weird. Like I played in a league. So this is like friends. So like I joined a league with someone from Twitter 2 years ago, and then he had some friends that do lots of startups, and he like invited me to one of their startups. And then those guys are doing another startup, and they just dropped the link in the league, and I joined it. So it's like friend of a friend type of league. But they're like high volume players. They play in lots of leagues. They have decent teams in the other couple leagues that I'm in with them. There's some other random people that I don't know. There's like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 managers that I haven't played with before. And then the rest are people I know. So it's like 50-50. But yeah, like, I don't think it's like, there's just a lot of variance in how people value things. And it's why it's nice to kind of get outside your own bubble and play with other people. But I wouldn't say it's not a real league. Like I would just say maybe it's not full of, super sharp managers. Certainly not subscribing to like macro market values. They're kind of picking their own values. I can't make any sense of the one draft. This is a 0.75 tight end premium. So it's like, it's a healthy premium, but it's not like insane or anything. We have a team that started with Harold Fannin and Tucker Kraft at the 111 and the 202, followed by Trevor Lawrence, Luther Burden, Emeka Ibuka, Jordan Love, Aronde Gasson. Those are all solid picks, I think, where they went. Solid enough. I mean, I think Burden was a bit of a reach, but not by a mile. He did go Burden over the 102, so that is kind of wild a little bit. But yeah, I mean, again, this guy's pretty sharp. He was in the finals, I think, of both the leagues that I joined with him last year. So maybe he just knows something I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is, 2026 picks are undervalued in leagues right now, and you should probably get out there and try to get yourself some extra 2026 pick exposure. That's the point I'm trying to make here. All right. Yeah, JJ McCarthy went over the 105, and the same guy took Michael Penix over the 107. So I don't know. I don't know. As far as buys and sells, I don't really have any sells picked out, but I did start putting down some possible names for the buys video next week. And I don't know. There's a lot of candidates. I think Jaden Daniels is probably the most expensive player that I would call out as like a clear buy right now. Just the upside is so high, and I think there are going to be a lot of leagues where people are kind of ready to move on. So it was probably better to buy him during the season, but he's still a buy now. I think Lad McConkey and Arande Gadsden are both decent buy candidates. You look at their splits with the healthy offensive line. You consider the fact that Rashawn Slater like literally didn't even play this year, so the offensive line is probably going to be even better than it was when Joe Alt was healthy. How much Herbert was throwing the ball, the neutral pass rate that he had. Keenan Allen probably going to retire if I had to guess. I really hope he does. So, you do have to worry about Trey Harris showing some signs of life. You do have to worry about Quentin Johnson still being there, but it just depends how late they go. Like in this league, Lad didn't go quite as late as I would have thought. He went 5:08, which isn't, that's not super early. He was definitely one of the next guys up in my queue, but I thought he might fall even further. So I guess it just depends what kind of brand value he still carries. Arande Gadsden goes 6'11", but it was the guy that's obsessed with tight ends. If he didn't take him, he might have fallen another half round or so into the 7th, and that's 0.75 tight end premium. So those guys are interesting to me. Fernando Mendoza is not going 101 in that league because I have the 101 in that league. So I will be taking Jeremiah Love, and I will be taking whoever my favorite wide receiver is at 102, unless I'm offered a really nice trade. But anyway, those are some guys. Let's see who else. Probably Tucker Kraft. I don't know. The injury is concerning, but I do really want to buy into the upside with him. And the Packers just continue to not have a number one wide receiver. Romeo Doubs is a free agent. Matthew Golden sucks. Christian Watson is totally fine, but he's not a high target share player. He's kind of the perfect wide receiver to coexist with someone like Tucker Kraft because he can be productive on like 5 targets. He's not really a target hog. Jaden Reed is a slot player. I'm kind of over that guy. So there's still that world where Kraft can be the George Kittle of this offense. He can be kind of the go-to guy in the passing game. So I do really want to believe in him coming back healthy. And he is like such a good player. He's going to be a super highly paid tight end in the future. He is, truly valuable. Like you can see that the Packers have really struggled without him. So yeah, I like Tucker Kraft as a buy in tight end premium. Ashton Genty perpetually is a buy. One that I think is interesting, and you guys will have to let me know if this is a bad take. I kind of feel like Saquon Barkley could be a buy. I'm not sure if his value has actually fallen as much as it feels like it has fallen in casual leagues. Like on Fantasy Calc, he is still the 46th overall player, RB11. That's actually slightly ahead of where I have him ranked. So I could be wrong on this. Maybe he's not a buy. It just feels like the way people talk about him. It's like you could get him for, a late first in certain leagues. Maybe a guy that you should kind of kick the tires on. Older running back coming off of a down season, but I think it's kind of unique in the sense that the down season really didn't have anything to do with Saquon's decline. I don't think he declined at all. I think when you saw him actually get a little bit of space like he did in the Washington game, he's carrying dudes into the end zone and he's juking people out of their shoes. He's doing the stuff that he usually does. And the interior offensive line for the Eagles just genuinely so bad this year. Couldn't open up any holes. I think that could be better. Lane Johnson missed a lot of time. So I think that offensive line play has to be better. And then I think there's a good chance we lose the tush push in the offseason. That could lead to some more goal line opportunities for Saquon. They just haven't run the sneak as well this season. I don't know for sure if Kevin Patullo is going to be gone, but like, I mean, he really should be, right? I mean, he should be. And to be fair, Nick Sirianni has kind of stepped in and taken on some more play calling duties over the last several weeks. And I know Saquon wasn't good in championship week, but if you look at the last stretch of the season in totality, let me just take a look here. He had, like, before week 17, he had 21.2 points, 17.2 points, 18.2 points. He was the running back 7, 12, and 13 in those 3 weeks in a row against the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Commanders. I know the two of those are really soft matchups, but he had over 20 carries in all 3 of those games. He had 19 carries against the Bills. He had a touchdown in 3 of those games. He even had double-digit targets in all those games, which I know isn't a lot, but it's something at least. 122 yards, 92 yards, 132 yards. Like, I think when Sirianni started taking on some responsibility and being involved in the play calling, it seemed like we got Barkley more involved, because those were 3 of his 5 highest carry games of the season, and they all came in a row. So I don't know. I'm interested in buying Saquon Barkley as a more budget-friendly contending piece if you are, a team that's in position to need that. Nolly Z3 says, is Ibuka a buy, or is he the same as Adunze and you should just buy him for cheaper? He's not the same. I don't think he's the same as Adunze. You say it's the same situation with a better quarterback. I don't think it's the same situation, because in Chicago, you have Luther Burden and Colson Loveland, who are, in my opinion, pretty clear stars in the making that are going into their year 2 seasons. In Tampa, Mike Evans is 32 and he's a free agent, could easily retire. Chris Godwin is 30 years old and he's well past his prime. And then you have Jalen McMillan, who apparently is a fine player, but if Ibuka is good enough to be a fantasy star, he's good enough to coexist with Jalen McMillan. So I don't think it's the same situation at all. I think it's very easy for me to picture a world where Emeka Ibuka is the number 1 target in Tampa Bay, and it's much easier for me to picture that than it is for me to picture Adunze as the unquestioned alpha for the Bears at any point in time. Certainly, you can say better quarterback, better OC. That part is true. I just don't know if it's enough to make up the difference. That being said, I don't have them ranked like insanely far apart. I have them like 9 or 10 spots apart. I would still rather have Ibuka. And I don't know how much cheaper it is. Ibuka is still ranked pretty aggressively on Fantasy Calc, wide receiver 13, 37th overall, but he is dropping. I think he'll continue to drop in the consensus. Rome Odunze is at wide receiver 22. So, like, if somebody wanted to give you Odunze and a first for Ibuka, certainly I would do that. Even if they were going to give you an early second, I would do that. But I don't know if that's really happening in most leagues. And I do think if we look at, let me see if I have a data sweep pulled up. I don't. The rookie season numbers for Ibuka, they don't look that bad. Like, if you look at his whole season, I know that narrative wise, it feels terrible because of how he has finished the year. Let me just see if I can get this load. But Emeka Ibuka, he's still looking at, for the season, a 26% targets per out run, 23% target share, and a 1.95 yards per out run. Typically, you'd love to get to that 2.0 yards per out run mark, but 1.95 is still really good. 28.5% first read target share. He's still, like, overall has had a much better rookie season than Rome Odunze. And I do think that matters. Like, Odunze's rookie year was just considerably weaker. If we just pull up the stats here, he was at a 21.9% target share, 24% targets per out run. That's not, like, too dramatically different. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, there we go. It was looking at his 2025 stats. I was like, that sounds way too good. Sorry. He had an 18% targets per out run, significantly worse, and 1.37 yards per out run, significantly worse. So rookie year to rookie year, I think Ibuka was more impressive. I think he has less target competition. So that's the reason I would still prefer him. But that being said, Rome did fall to the 701 pick in this startup. I was going to pick him if nobody else did. So if that's happening in, a non-insignificant number of leagues, then he could be a buy as well. Going further down the board, I could see buying into Malik Willis. If people are just thinking that he was just a backup quarterback, just a fill-in, you might be able to get him for like a mid to late third round pick. I would take that shot in Superflex just because he is a free agent. There's a lot of bad quarterbacks around the NFL. He's young. Once upon a time, he had some NFL draft buzz. I think it's possible. I wouldn't say it's probable, but I think there's a 20% chance that he's a starter next year, or like at least in a competition to potentially be a starter next year. And that is easily worth rolling a third round pick on. So I would love to add some shares of Malik Willis. And the other guy I'll say is A.D. Mitchell, who could be the wide receiver 2, number 2 target for the Jets next year with like potentially a legitimate quarterback prospect. On Tankathon, the Jets have the 3rd overall pick. The Giants are between them and the Raiders, and they're not drafting a quarterback. So there's a decent chance if Dante Moore comes out, there's a decent chance that the Jets are the team that has a chance to grab him if they want to do that. And so you could be looking at a situation where A.D. Mitchell is year 3 wide receiver who finished his season with a 27% targets per route run, 1.61 yards per route run. Oh, wait, there we go. 26% targets per route run, 1.68 yards per route run. I mean, when you consider how bad the quarterback play has been with the Jets, you could do a lot worse. And if you just isolate for, when did he go to the Jets? Week 9? Say week 9 to the end of the season. You're looking at a 20% target share. No, that can't be right. Yeah, he was still on the Colts for part of that. There we go. Nearly a 25% target share over the 7 games he played with the Jets. 1.44 yards per hour run. Again, that's brutal, but we've seen Garrett Wilson be a victim to the same thing. When your quarterback is Tyrod Taylor or Brady Cook, you're not going to be that efficient. But 14.5 expected points per game. That's pretty strong usage for a guy that's hovering in the like very late second to early third round value range. So I would take a shot on him if people aren't too crazy about him. I don't think Jake Tonjes is the true number 1 buy. I feel like Jake Tonjes is just like a Kyle Shanahan create a player and has no inherent value in and of himself, but I guess he's a handcuff. He's one of the few tight end handcuffs that exists in Dynasty. So if you have George Kittle, maybe you want to get Jake Tonjes. I wonder what his contract situation is. He's on a 1-year, $1 million contract with the Niners. So hopefully he gets re-signed so you can have your tight end handcuff, because he is currently, he's a restricted free agent. So he'll probably be back. All right, let's keep moving here. Can I talk about Bucky? Yeah, I can talk about Bucky. Nico wanted to know, why is it not over for Bucky? So I have Bucky ranked in a range that would suggest it is not over for him. He is my running back 11. He is ranked 50th overall. He's actually my running back 10. 50th overall, not counting rookies, obviously. And that might seem really high for what we got from Bucky Irving late in the season. I totally understand that. The Bucky Irving experience was extremely underwhelming when he came back from his injury. If I believed that usage was the only possible path forward for Bucky Irving, he would be ranked considerably lower. He'd be sitting, down maybe near where Javonte Williams is. I'm ranking him the way I'm ranking him because I think there's a lot of ways that things can play out. Okay. We saw Bucky come back in week 13. So weeks 1 through 4, this was Bucky Irving's utilization. He had 14 carries and 4 targets. Then he had 17 carries and 6 targets, 25 carries and 4 targets, 15 carries and 5 targets. So he had 4 to 6 targets in every single game. He had at least 14 carries in every game. He averaged closer to 18 carries. He ran over 50% of the routes in all of the first 3 games, and then he was down at 35% against the Eagles. That's because he got banged up during the game. He actually had a really long receiving touchdown in that game. So his usage was, borderline top 5 for those first 4 weeks. Then he gets hurt. He comes back in week 13 against the Cardinals. They said they were going to ease him back in. He ends up dominating the touches. He gets 17 carries, including 3 in the red zone, 2 targets, 2 receptions. He has 81 total yards and a touchdown in his first game back. The next game, 15 carries, 3 targets, 81 total yards again, and a touchdown. It looks like we're in a pretty good spot with him. And then I cannot explain what we saw happen over the last 3 weeks. Suddenly, Sean Tucker is getting the goal line opportunities. Rashad White is coming in and running lots of routes. It was really strange. Now, I will say we did see Bucky get 6 targets in that week 17 game, even though he only had 9 carries. That's encouraging. This is just a lot of box score talk. Basically, my take is that Bucky Irving is an extremely talented running back. I think he can do everything well. I think he definitely was more effective in his rookie year than this year, but I think he's really good. I think he's capable of commanding a healthy backfield role. I don't think he's going to be Devon Achane. There was a point in time where I thought he could be that type of, obviously he's not the same archetype speed back, but I thought he could be, as a smaller back, he could be that type of workhorse. Maybe that's not true anymore, but I still think he's capable of like RB1 type usage. Like he's not that much smaller than James Cook. James Cook is 5'11", 190 pounds, or at least he was. Bucky Irving is 5'10", 195 pounds. They're basically the same size. Bucky's actually, if these measurements I'm looking at are right, is actually the same weight at an inch shorter. So he's actually a little bit more compact. So there's no reason he can't handle a heavy workload. For whatever reason, Todd Bowles or the offensive coordinator, Josh Grizzard, decided that they wanted to use all 3 of these backs. But here's the thing. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers suck. They're terrible. They've been the worst team in football for like a month. They can't win a game to save their lives. They're probably going to miss the playoffs. So there's no guarantee that Todd Bowles is back. There's no guarantee that Grizzard is back. I don't know how they could possibly bring both of those people back. I feel like if they're going to keep Bowles, they need a new OC. If they're going to get rid of Bowles, they're going to get rid of the OC regardless. So then we're back to, what does a new coach think of Bucky Irving's talent? You have Rashad White as an unrestricted free agent. You have Sean Tucker as a restricted free agent. I'm willing to bet one of those 2 players is gone, and that we have a 2-back backfield going next season, potentially with a new offensive coordinator. So I think that there's just a lot of outs for the talent to manifest itself. And I just think it would be silly to completely change all of our priors about Bucky Irving based on 3 games where the real knock on him is just decision making from coaches that we already know suck anyway. So that's kind of my take on Bucky. The more I talk about it, the more I really do want to try to buy low on him where I can. But I already have enough. I already have a healthy number of shares anyway. So that's my take. I don't know anybody that's listening if you think that's reasonable or like why I shouldn't feel that way. It just seems crazy to think like he was getting work at the goal line and scoring touchdowns before. It's not like he can't do it. Again, James Cook does it. I'm not saying he's as good of a rusher as James Cook, but he is really good. He was one of the best at forcing missed tackles last year. He was like one of the best pure rushers in the league as a rookie. He's dealt with injuries this year. He's had some like mental health, issues, it seems. But yeah, I don't know. I still believe in him. I do still believe in him, and he's young, so why not? All right, let me go back to going in order here. Doc Birdie hit me with the general offseason approach. Do you want to immediately get to work, take a more casual approach making moves, and then ramp up to the combine/draft? I wouldn't. So I don't know this is necessarily like the most efficient process or anything. I just tend to get really burned out after the season, and I usually take at least a couple weeks before I really, really start tinkering with teams and like taking stock of where they are at. I don't really feel the need to do a whole bunch before the combine and kind of take it slow. So I guess a more casual approach would be my answer. And again, it depends on your league's activity. If there's a lot of people that are like, hey, I want a deal, I want to tear my team down. Like if somebody in my league was like, at all, I'm rebuilding, like I'm going to tear it down. I'm going to go look at their team, see if something makes sense. I'm going to try to take advantage of that. I'm just not doing as much of the pushing, sending DMs and offers as much, just because people tend to be kind of checked out. You also say, are your moves right now purely value-based? When do you start to consider production versus value? So I'm gonna just say I've been doing a lot of thinking about value and how we think about value. And I don't have anything concrete. It's just something I've been kicking around and potentially doing a video on sometime this offseason, just how I think the idea of value is like deceptive, and how I think it's really easy to fall into this trap of like always chasing value and always trying to do things for gaining value, when in reality, a lot of times we don't actually know value because it's so league specific. Like a player can have the X amount of value on the market, but at the end of the day, you're dealing with 11 other managers. So really their value is what one of those managers would pay for that player. And then we also just don't know value because we're buying into unknown situations where we can be wrong. We can think we're making a value-based move, which is really like a 55-45 proposition that you can just lose and end up losing value. So it's like, I'm just thinking through like how do we make more intentional moves that are not just trying to, I don't know, play a numbers game with a market that doesn't really exist, and are more like practical and kind of holistically just make sense for the team you're building. So I don't know, like an example of this, the startup that I'm in right now. I've noticed some tendencies in the draft room. Obviously they're discounting the 2026 picks. We have a lot of managers that are going very like heavy win now. We've had a lot of people trade 2027 firsts. Some people have traded 28 firsts. We also have a couple of teams, one in particular, that are very clearly tanking. So most startups, I think, have a little bit of parity going into that first season. This one is going to be it feels like it's very segmented, where you have like the really aggressive win now teams, you have some tanking teams, and then you have a couple middle ground teams. And I consider myself one of those. I started this draft with Drake May, the 101, the 102, Patrick Mahomes, the 105, and Travis Hunter. Clearly, I think you could say not a very like win now approach, much more a value-based approach. I'm taking the best values on the board when I'm on the clock. I'm taking insulated assets, really safe assets. So then I get up on the clock at 7:03, and truthfully, I wasn't on the clock. I actually made a little trade up. But I get on the board at 7:03. Zay Flowers is my highest ranked player, and I happen to like Zay Flowers quite a bit. I think he's a really good wide receiver. I think he's very safe because he's talented. I did not take Zay Flowers, my highest ranked player, at 7:03. I took RJ Harvey. The reason I took RJ Harvey is because Bucky Irving was off the board, Breece Hall was off the board, Chase Brown was off the board, Judkins was off the board. The next running backs after Harvey were Cam Scadaboo, Josh Jacobs. Both of those guys went before my original pick. I would have been on the clock. I would have been looking at like Kyron, Javonte. I wanted to, rather than just going with my highest ranked guy because that was the value play, I wanted to go for RJ Harvey because looking at my roster, I've already built a very valuable, safe, insulated team. I'm not worried about Drake May losing value. I'm not worried about the 101, the 102. I'm buying Travis Hunter at basically his like rock bottom point. Patrick Mahomes, same thing. I got Mahomes in the 4th round. So I've obviously acquired value, and I feel like I don't need to keep beating that drum of just draft for value, because at a certain point, it's clear what this league values and what they don't value. And while I think Zay Flowers is the most valuable player on the board, it's pretty unlikely that the rest of the league does. And he falls all the way to the 7-12. I almost actually got him with my next pick. But the point here is that if I actually want to give myself a chance to compete in this league, eventually I need to take some swings on production upside. And so I think there's just a right balance that you need to find, an equilibrium with your roster in your league. And I think it's based on like, what are the tendencies of your league mates? Are you ready to contend? And I think you need to open yourself up to like taking a little bit more risk in certain spots, like tactically taking those swings. I used to think when you go into a startup, like if you draft, this was, and when I say used to, I mean like when I was really new, like before YouTube and stuff, it was like, okay, you're either going to go in and do a productive struggle and you're going to trade down, get all the picks you can, and you're going to make everything about future value. Or, you know, if you take like Christian McCaffrey with your first pick, second pick, then all your picks need to be geared towards the current season, because otherwise you're just not maximizing the McCaffrey pick. You need to get all the productive guys you can so you can build like a really strong team. And it's like, I'm totally in the opposite mindset of that, where what I want to be doing is kind of mixing and matching archetypes, like take a bunch of young guys early and then throw in a George Kittle and throw in a Saquon Barkley, right? And see if I can maintain a high value team, but still have enough pieces where I can get into the early part of the season. I can see if my guys are good enough and I can kind of like strengthen the roster and go on a run that way and not really have to decide preemptively whether I'm in or out. And that's how I kind of managed a lot of my teams this season. And I ended up having a lot of success. I ended up making a lot of playoffs because I made moves early in the year to kind of lock myself in one way or the other. And it didn't really cost me that many bye weeks. I had a few teams that were 3 seeds, like more teams that were 3 seeds than I would have liked, but I still had a very healthy number of buys. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to think through like the rules, I guess, like if there's like a way to quantify what I'm saying and like make it actionable. But that's just like a practical situation that I've rambled through here. I don't even remember what the original question was. Are your moves purely value based? So I guess the answer is like no. I want to be making smart trades. I want to be making trades I think are correct on value, but I'm willing to bet on players that I think are good fits for my team, even if they're not like total slam dunk value wins. Richard F asks, if I have a lot of picks, should I be trading for players right now or should I wait longer? Just, again, league specific in general, I would say you're probably going to have more luck waiting a bit and letting your picks accrue value and just kind of being patient. Right now, there's a very strong sentiment that this class is weak. I would bet that after the combine, there's going to be some names that people are more excited about. It's going to create more buzz, especially for like the second and third round picks. So yeah, I would be cautious. Yella asks for reminders about this time of year, things to keep in mind about timelines, times to buy and sell. Yeah, a lot of stuff we've already gone over. As far as being patient with your picks. You don't need to fix your needs right now. Your team has no needs right now. Your team doesn't have any needs until maybe July. Then I'll allow it. Then you can say, hey, I probably need a tight end if I'm going to do this, or I need a wide receiver because my third wide receiver is Cedric Tillman or whatever. But before that, you don't have any needs. So you want to be patient that way. Wait for deals to open up. As far as like certain demographics of players, I think there are leagues where like in this pocket of the season, you can catch managers who think their team is on the way down and you can like potentially grab veteran players at a discount. We saw this with some veteran running backs last year and the year before, where you could get the veteran running backs. People were ready to throw them off the cliff. Like I might draft Derrick Henry in this startup. I'm not kidding. If he comes all the way back to me, I'm up in 12 picks. If he comes all the way back to me, I'll probably draft him in the late 9th round. It just depends. I guess it just depends where the rookie picks are at that point. But if he's there and it's like the 203 is the next rookie pick, I might just take him. Because again, I have so much value on this team already. He could be a really useful veteran for me. So, yeah, we'll see on that. But that's what I would say as far as timelines and things to remember right now. Myrule, what's up? Welcome to the stream. You can always catch the replay. We are going to wrap up here soon, but appreciate you stopping in. Nick G, tips on navigating free agent signings. Sell on the hype of a new situation or hold hoping it means better fantasy points. I don't think I can prescribe like a certain rule for navigating free agents. It depends on how strong the hype becomes and whether it's warranted, but I'll definitely be here to go over all that stuff. Like if not in a regular video, certainly in a member stream, we'll go over all of the fantasy relevant free agency and we'll kind of talk about what the market's going to do with those players and whether we want to buy or sell. I feel like just anecdotally that buying in on free agents, signing on new teams has worked out pretty well the last couple of years. Certainly, I mean, a lot of them, like I wasn't in on DK Metcalf. That was very much because of his peripherals and the Arthur Smith thing. And certainly that was a situation you wanted to avoid, but like, notable free agents, we saw obviously Saquon Barkley changing teams worked out really well. George Pickens, that was a trade, but same kind of concept. Javonte Williams really worked out in free agency. Just some guys that I can think of without doing too much digging. Davante Adams switching teams really worked out. DeAndre Swift even worked out pretty well with his new team. So I think there's definitely some proof of concept that free agent acquisitions can be profitable buys. But we'll go over it when the time comes. There was also a question about Rice. How do you value a player who seems so tied to individual thoughts about his risk and ability? I'll come back to him in a second. We do have a question from Fresno, who's here in the chat. What do you think about always making 100% of your rookie picks? The asymmetric upside of rookies seems to be better most of the time over the players you'd buy. I don't hate the idea. I think what I would say is like, I would definitely lean more into making 100% of your rookie picks as opposed to trading 100% of your rookie picks. So I agree with you in that sense. Like I do want to be swinging on rookies and taking that asymmetric upside. I wouldn't make it a hard and fast rule just because your team needs balance. Like it's nice to draft a ton of rookies, but you also could use like productive players now. And so it depends how many picks you have, right? If you're just talking about your own original picks and you don't have any surplus, I could totally see taking a crack on 4 rookies. Like I would love to add 4 rookies to my team every single year. If you have a bunch of surplus picks because you're coming out of a rebuild or something, I think you're probably better off shopping some of those picks, trying to get some more locked in production, and then still getting a healthy number of rookies. In general, I want to be over the market on rookie picks as a whole, and certainly I want to be over the market on the rookies that I really like. But I'm not super dogmatic about it. Like I'm always willing to listen to offers. I'm open to trading picks out into the future for next year's picks. I can be kind of annoying, I feel like, to ask advice because I'm so context dependent. I'm like, it depends on the league. It depends what people are going to pay. But I do think that's the right way to play dynasties. You have to play against the opponents that are in front of you. So if people are offering, a 27 first round pick for your 110 pick, I'm going to take that. I'm not going to make that pick. If someone's offering, I've been able to buy veteran players with picks that I never would have expected I could. And I was happy to take advantage of those deals when they did come around. So definitely want to make a lot of picks when I can. I would rather be over market than under market on the rookies. And I definitely agree with your general point. As far as Rashee Rice, how do you value a player? Well, I've talked about Rashee Rice and how I dinged him in the rankings. And then I felt this little bit of relief when he got drafted in my startup, which was very telling. He ended up getting drafted at the 310 right before I took the 102. And I do have the 102 ranked ahead. So that would have been, the choice either way. But I was kind of relieved when he went off the board. And I was just thinking about why. And it does feel like a pretty precarious situation for Rashee Rice. Like he'll be, so he'll be 26 in April, and he'll be going into the final year of his rookie deal. He's entering a season where Patrick Mahomes is coming off of a multi-ligament tear. We don't know, we don't have complete certainty about how good Mahomes is going to be next year. I hope he's totally fine. I hope he can handle a little decrease in mobility and still be good. But you're talking about Mahomes coming off an injury, Rice's final year of his rookie deal, 26 years old. The last time the Chiefs had a wide receiver to pay was Tyreek Hill. They did not pay him. Rashee Rice on another team is a far less appealing fantasy asset. And that's not even mentioning what I would say is like some, very legitimate risk that the Chiefs could draft a wide receiver in this class. They currently have the 9th overall pick. That is very much in the hot spot for a Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon. I don't see why they wouldn't consider that. I mean, they could obviously go, trenches. They could go offensive line. They certainly need help there. I don't know the nuances of where this class is strong and weak, but the 9th pick is very much in the ballpark of where these wide receivers are being mocked. I think Carnell Tate and Tyson especially would be incredible fits for this team, and I think they're both better players than Rashee Rice. So there's just a lot of volatility here that honestly makes me want to rank him even lower. I don't know if I'll do it, but I might move him down. I might move him down below like Purdy and Lawrence. I might move him down below Pickens. I just think it's a house of cards with Rashee Rice. If Mahomes is totally healthy next year and Rice is there and they don't draft a wide receiver, he's probably going to give you wide receiver 5-ish production as long as everyone's healthy. But there's other factors at play that I do think matter. So that's where I'm at. Definitely not a guy I'm holding if I'm in a rebuild. No shot. All right, we're going to end on this question here because I don't think there's really anything else. Senior Hyde what to do with these productive old guys. Davante Adams, King Henry, Saquon Barkley. Ride them into the sunset, try to sell now, wait till in season. Seems they are at their lowest value, but also vulnerable to anything, tanking any value they may have. So I actually don't think, so it's interesting. I feel like non-elite players, like even younger ones or like in their prime, non-elite players, they're in a lot more risk in the offseason than these elite veterans. Like Davante Adams, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, those guys are entrenched. Those guys are, if they're back next year, they're going to have the same job, the same role that they had this year. So there's really not any offseason risk other than like if you think they might retire. Whereas somebody like a DeAndre Swift or Javonte Williams, like they're much more risky in the offseason because you don't know how their situations are going to change. So I'm totally fine to hold those players because I don't think you're getting people that are very excited right now to go out and buy Adams or Henry, maybe Barkley. But for the most part, I don't think people are really forking over legitimate assets for those guys. So, ultimately where I value them is where they are in the rankings. And so if you're getting something that is above that, I'm fine to sell. And if you're not going to compete next year, you do want to look for an opportunity to sell, but it'll probably be closer to the season. But yeah, I'm not really that nervous to hold those guys because I do think they're fairly safe. They're fairly insulated in the offseason outside of like a freak injury in practice. And that's not something I really bank on. Michael Douglas, what's your most recent dynasty rankings? So if you are in the members Discord, which I would hope that you are, and you are in the superstars tier or the league winners tier, the top 2 tiers, you can go to the dynasty rankings channel in Discord and you can see my most recent announcement was post week 17 rankings. So these are, this was after the Sunday games last week. That's the most recent post. You can click the link to the Google Docs and you can see it there. If you're having an issue, feel free to send me a DM on Discord, or you could leave a comment on this stream and I can definitely help you sort that out. But they should be readily accessible in Discord, and you'll just want to go to the most recent tab, which is the one that says new Dynasty Rankings, January version 1. So once the season's over, I'll be doing bi-weekly updates, and outside of like, I'll still make updates when I like research for videos or when the combine hits or free agency or whatever, but like bi-weekly official updates with announcements and stuff. And that's why it says January version 1. There'll be a version 2, and then they'll do February, and then February version 2, it'll work like that. So that's the situation with the rankings. I have the first round rookie picks in there now. I did actually sort of insert the second rounders, just like less precise. I just sort of put them in the proper tiers and spread them out. But yeah, those will get more and more precise as we approach draft season. K. Kubala says, I feel like CD is a sell. He'll never be more valuable than he is now. So that's true of a lot of players. I don't think that makes players sells. I mean, Jamar Chase will never be more valuable than he is right now. Josh Allen will never be. Bijan and Gibbs will never be more valuable than they are right now. Trey McBride's never going to be more valuable than he is right now. I don't think that's enough on its own to say that a player is a sell. If CeeDee Lamb is going to continue to be CeeDee Lamb next year, and he's going to be at, 18, 19, 20 points per game wide receiver, I think he's a guy that you still want to have. Not that I would never sell him, not that I wouldn't sell him for the right price or on a team that maybe needed to break down into more assets, but I don't think that a player being at their peak value is necessarily a reason to sell unless you have reason to believe that value is going to drop off precipitously, or you're not going to get production that matches that value. That's when I would be more compelled. But right now I have him as 15th overall. I did move him behind Genty and the 101. He's right next to Drake London for me. He's still really, really good. He has a great quarterback. It's going to be a pass-heavy offense. I'm pro CeeDee Lamb personally. But that's going to do it, guys. We are done with the member stream. Hope you guys enjoy a stress-free Week 18 matchup. No fantasy implications. And I'll talk to you on Discord. Obviously, I'm always around. Hope you all have a good night.